and welcome back to WCBG. WCBG, Small College, Big Voice. I'm Jeanine, and the interview today is with a Wagner alum, Ariel, as he goes by the name of SACRVMENT, and he's been doing a lot of awesome things. So make sure to check out this really good interview.
Hello. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Thank you so much for doing this. I know I'm super excited, and I didn't know you were a WCBG alum, so that's even better.
Yes, you know what? Yeah, I joined, I want to say like 2015. Yeah, I did a show called Musique of the Soul, and I would just feature a lot of music that I thought was really good. Like, I was a really big fan of, Alicia Keys, FKA Twigs, Marvin Gaye, a lot of like soul music. So, yeah.
That's super cool. Like, I wish I knew sooner. Pat was like, you should reach out to him. It would be amazing. And I was like, oh, I wish I knew sooner. Like, it's
Right?
been awesome.
Yeah, I went to Wagner College.
Do you mind if I ask, when did you graduate?
You know what? That's a story within itself. I actually did not finish Wagner College, unfortunately, because, it got mad expensive. But it's okay. I am so grateful for everything that I did at Wagner College. But, just life comes into the way,
Definitely understandable.
I am born and raised from Staten Island.
Oh, what part?
I was born in New Brighton, and then I lived in the North Shore for a good majority of my life, and then I moved to Duncan Hills in 2011, and then now in Bay Terrace in my own apartment.
Oh, nice. I'm from the South Shore.
Oh, okay, awesome. What high school did you go to?
I went to Tech.
Oh, awesome. Yes. That's by New York.
Yes. Where did you go?
Yes. I went to Wagner High School.
Nice. They have a great music program there.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I really love the music program there. I did music and I also did theater there. And then in 2013, we got the announcement that they were going to make the Performing Arts building. Unfortunately, I never got to use it because I graduated by the time it like opened. But it's phenomenal. It's state of the art. There's nothing like it on Staten Island, and I really recommend anyone that's going to high school to go to that high school for performing arts or visual arts.
Yeah, I saw that. It was great. I was in band in high school, and I played trumpet years ago.
Oh, awesome. Cool. Yes.
But I was originally looking at like Susan Wagner and like LaGuardia, and then I was like, no, let's go to Tech. Very different. Very different things.
Right.
But I know like Wagner has like this renowned theater program, and you mentioned.
They do, yes. My first production that I did there was Sweeney Todd, and I played Tobias, and that was my dream role, and just the fact that I got casted for it was just a dream come true. And then the year after, I did In the Heights, which Lin-Manuel wrote, and he's the one who wrote Hamilton, Moana, and all that. And we ended up performing it on Broadway for one night because they were doing like a showcase, and it was in Circle in the Square Theater, and I'll just never forget like performing on that stage.
Oh, amazing!
It was really cool.
That was actually going to be my question, so you answered it for me.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. I like when that happens.
Boom. There you go.
And you mentioned in your bio that you were vocal major while at Wagner.
I was, yes. I studied under Anthony Turner, and then at the time I was in college choir, chamber choir, jazz vocal ensemble with Dr. Wesby, and yeah, it was just a really cool experience. We got to tour around the world. Like, I went to Spain with them. I went to Costa Rica. I traveled to Florida and Virginia. It was just a really cool experience because I never really been like out of the country or like really out of the tri-state area. So that was relieving to know that I got the opportunity to do that.
That's super exciting. Have any of the professors at Wagner influenced your music style?
You know what? Yes, I want to. I would say Dr. Roger Wesby and his wife Barbara Wesby really influenced my taste in music. Like, I always was into jazz music, but I feel like they really made me appreciate how timeless it is and how it's the past, it's the present, and it is the future at the same time. And I feel my goal as an artist is to combine different types of music and just to make it into one whole genre. Like a, when people listen to like this type of production style I make, I usually categorize it as alternative R&B, but um, but to wrap up the whole signature sound of my music would be I also listen to classical music too, and being in choir, singing in different voice parts. I was really inspired to use that music theory and put it into alternative electronic sounds, but then write, pop music with it. So all the pop heads are like, wow, this is so different. But then all the music theory heads are like, wow, this is so smart for pop music. So I try to, embody, both universes into one.
Can you describe your sound for me in 3 words?
Um, okay, that's a great question. Um, futuristic,
Mm-hmm.
um, luscious, and in your face.
Nice. I like that. That's so cool.
Thanks.
And you mentioned that you were super interested in music theory. What is your opinion of math rock?
Math rock? You know what? That's the one genre I've definitely heard of math rock, but I never got the time to listen to it. That's a genre I definitely want to delve into.
I think it's super interesting because it'll fluctuate between like 6/8, and then you're in 4/4, and then you're in like cut time. And I'm like, oh,
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay, that makes sense. Yes.
yeah, and like, I don't know, it's just the development of these different genres that I feel like weren't popular 10 years ago, and I feel like there's now a bigger influence on understanding music theory, as you said, because
Right? I agree.
it's making these tracks and this production style so much more interesting and in depth. I listened to some of your tracks, and I have to say, like, the way the mix is created, you can definitely tell, one, you like, you really care about what you're doing, and
I
two,
did. Thank you.
it's like,
On some of the tracks, I want to mention Q Believes Diamonds. That is a record. I would say that's probably one of the biggest projects I worked on. Um, Q Believe is a phenomenal artist, and I worked with him starting last year, and I met him at a studio session, and it comes to find out that he's written a lot of songs that ended up being on radio. Um, like I forgot the name of the artist. Oh, Ami.
mm-hmm,
You know that song "Cheerleader" that came out in 2015?
yes.
Yeah. Q Believe is responsible for writing that, or I think it was that song.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
So he was responsible for writing a lot of different music that came around that time, and then he really enjoyed like my style of production. And then we met up with a friend, Raymond Scavo, or as he goes by Ray the Plug, and we just wrote that record in a couple of days, and then we ended up sending it to Mike Ashby, which he's a phenomenal audio engineer. He's responsible for Cardi B's Bodak Yellow, so it was a really big deal that he was mixing the record
Wow.
after we produced it, and then um, we ended up sending the record to be mastered by Chris Jenner, who's also responsible for Cardi B's Bodak Yellow. He
Mm-hmm.
also worked with he did Young Blood by 5 Seconds of Summer, and yeah,
Oh
it's
my
really
god.
cool.
That's super cool and fascinating. I love how, like, interconnected the industry is because even,
Right? You never know who you bump into. It's
yeah,
crazy.
it's absolutely crazy. So, if there's one thing you can change about the music industry, what would it be and why?
That's a great question that I love to answer. One thing I would change about the music industry is how they're signing people right now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we kind of lost the taste of or the process of artist development, and I think it's so important that record labels do this, or that the music industry does this in general,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm gonna take Lord for an example, who I'm a huge fan of. She got signed when she was 13, and she got discovered in New Zealand, where she's from, and she didn't release music until she was like maybe 15 or 16, but she spent those couple of years like figuring out who she is as an artist, what her brand is, what her, what her sound was going to be, and it worked. And I feel like we need a little bit more, I mean, a lot of bit more of artist development in the music industry. So, yeah, that's the one thing I would change.
I definitely understand that, and it's super true based on like the fact that these streaming services are. I feel like there's a push for singles instead of albums.
Instead of albums, I agree.
And I feel like missing parts of an album, because an album is like this creative story that an artist is trying to tell, and
Exactly.
part of that is lost if you're just releasing singles consistently. But at the same time, you're still broadening your fan base with releasing new singles all the time. So it's like this catch.
You know what? I'm actually going to use Kim Petras as an example. She is under AWOL Records. They're an independent, like world-leading record label, and you can kind of like do whatever you want and how you're distributing your music. But I'm going to use her for example. She released single after single like every single week, and she had no album. And I feel like she's one of the few artists that did that and made it work. And then she ended up releasing newer music as a debut album. But I thought that was one of the smartest things or at least in modern music, I think is a really smart thing to do.
So what type of artists are you listening to currently?
What artists I'm listening to? I feel like, wow. I listen to a lot of different types of music. Like I would go from listening to like Lana Del Rey, but then listen to Korn or Evanescence in the next minute. Right now, I'm listening to Magdalene. That's FK Twigs' new record. I feel like she was really inspired by the idea of a feminist empowerment theme in her music, especially with this album. And if you just listen to the style of production and just the lyricism that's in her music, it's so intricate and so ahead of its time. I feel like people are gonna appreciate this album as it keeps on going by. And then I'm also really into Billie Eilish's new single, Everything I Wanted, and I think it reminds me, it makes you feel nostalgic, but it's so ahead of its time at the same time, if that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I've noticed that, like, at least for me recently, for one of my classes, I had to write a list of 10 songs to describe the past 10 years of my life. Like, list a song for each year. And honestly, that was, like, the hardest thing ever, because it's like, is it the song I listened to in that year, or is it the song that I think reflects my experience in that year looking back on it now?
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. It's like, was this prominent in my life because it was just everywhere, or was it prominent in my life because it was personal to me?
And I think that's one of the best things about music, because all these different artists are releasing things that are personal to them, and it's great as a fan to like find this connection with an artist. And most of the music I listen to, I'm going to be 100% honest, is not mainstream. And
nice.
Yeah, I feel like I live under a rock sometimes, and people are like, check out this new song.
I feel like anything that's under the rock is like high key better,
Yeah, and I feel like there's this like, I don't know, this different type of care, like when the production is created, and like it's more for the artist and also for the fans, but not geared towards the fans. Like, if
I agree.
And I've noticed what like the songs that you've produced and like worked on, you can definitely hear that raw, like that, yes, this is who I am, this is what I want to do type of sound. And I feel like that's lost a lot in mainstream music, so I'm super.
Oh wow, thank you so much. That's a huge compliment.
Oh, no problem. It's the truth. Like, I think it's
I want to mention the records that I sent you. Nate Wong is such an amazing artist. I mean, he's in his hiatus of like making music right now, but when I was working with him, I put my life and soul into his records. And the same thing with another artist that I shared with you, Maddie Lynn. She's really, really talented too. And I don't know. I just feel like you said, I feel like songs are missing that. They're missing, putting your life and soul into it and, just making art out of it. But at the same time, it's appealing to everyone,
Mhm. So I have a question that we've been asking everyone we've interviewed. Grace, now she's our public relations director, came up with
Ooh.
it. Her question is, what do you think of? Do you think the music industry should release an artist's unreleased music after they've passed away, or should it just remain in the vault?
Um, wow, that's a question. Um, I would say I think going forward, an artist should sign um should sign an agreement with whoever their management is, whether they want their unreleased music to be used or not. I think it worked for Whitney Houston when she released a new single with Kygo,
Mm-hmm.
"Higher Love," and that was a song that she probably recorded in like the 1980s or the 1990s, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then whoever was her management, or whoever was Kygo's management had access to that, obviously, and it made it work in the 2010s. It made it adaptable to like what we're listening to now. So, um, I would say it's definitely up to the artist. I mean, it it could work either way.
No, I definitely get that. I feel like from like other people we've interviewed and stuff, we've gotten very different answers from everyone on their opinion on this. Like
Mhm.
some people are more like comparing it to Kurt Cobain's journal and how it just shouldn't be released, and other people are comparing it to like the Little Peep song that came out and how like if as a fan you want to hear it. So I
Mhm.
think your answer of actually having it included and like having the artist say I do or do not when they're talking to their management is a great idea.
Yeah.
And I think that like actually not like reduces the question, but like it gives an answer to the question that maybe the music industry should take a look at how they're going about this, because it shouldn't just be a cash grab. It should be the artists. It's their work.
Decision.
Mm-hmm. They should be proud of
Yes.
it. So if you could work with any artist, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Um, I would definitely work with. I would love to work with Bjork. There's literally no one in the world that's like her. Every electronic or alternative artist that's come out in the last, 25 years, most of them say that they're inspired by her because she's she's the future. Like her record Homogenic came out 22 years ago, and it sounds like it was produced last week. And it's still futuristic. It still is unraveling so many different um, ideas in music, and it's still being referenced for newer music. So I would definitely like to work with her. I also would love to work with um, Lana Del Rey. I think she revolutionized the idea of what an alternative artist can do in the 2010s. And then I'm gonna finish it off with Lorde. I think she's my age, so I just feel like anything that she's writing or anything that she's spoken about in her music, I relate to because we're the same age. So I guess we're kind of feeling the same things at the same time.
Yeah, it's the relatability factor, and I feel like all the artists you've listed have that relatability where they're like down to earth and like their music definitely reflects who they are or who they're trying to be.
Mhm.
And I think that's great. I love the answers you gave. I think that's really, really interesting.
Yeah, I love them. Those are my girls.
So, how can we find your music and the stuff you've worked on?
You could follow me on Instagram at Ariel Omar. That's ArielOmar. I am listed under the producer named Sacrament, but the second A is a V, so it's SACRVMENT.
Is there anything you would like to tell our listeners?
keep on listening to WCBG radio, and I hope everyone is not being stressed out about finals. It's definitely stressful, but you know, make today your own. Make every day the way you want to do it, as long as you have good intentions. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the semester.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to me. I really appreciate it, and it was great talking to a Wagner alum and learning, especially a WCBG alum. I still think that's super cool. Like, I wish
Yes,
I knew.
thank you for having me. I
Of
really
course.
appreciate it.
Thank you. I hope you have a great day.
Yes, you too. Goodbye, everyone. I'll see you.
Bye.
Have a good one.